So let's start with this year's Lakers team. I think this is a really fun squad. Ever since last year's midseason shakeup, they've been a really fun team to watch. They've been playing really well. What are your expectations for this team kind of entering the year?
Yeah, I think that the expectation is for this team to try to continue what they finished last season, the way they played post trade deadline last year. Obviously, it was on a completely different level because really it was a completely different team than the team that we saw pre-trade deadline. So once they added their pieces, added guys like D'Angelo Russell, like, of course, you're bringing in Rui Hachimura, you're bringing in Jared Vanderbilt, and then giving a bigger role to Austin Reaves, they really win on a strong stretch. I feel like they kind of ran out of gas in the Western Conference Finals, in addition to running into a very, very good Denver Nuggets team. But the expectation is for them to pick up where they left off, get back to their winning ways, and not go on that, say, 2-10 start like we saw last season. So expectations are high for this team. They are expected to be one of many title contenders in the NBA this season, and we'll see if they can live up to that.
Austin Reaves is such a fun story. I know everyone's talking about him now, especially after what he did with Team USA, but to go undrafted, I know he's talked about it since and said he could have gotten drafted by, teams like Detroit, but he chose to go undrafted and join the Lakers and kind of bet on himself. But, what are your thoughts on just this story? And do you think he could have a breakout season and kind of take his game to a whole other level this year?
Well, I think for NBA wide, it's a really good situation to look at in terms of understanding that in the draft, it's more about your landing spot than it is your draft number. And I think that Austin making the decision to not be drafted by Detroit because he reasoned that if he were to do something with the Lakers, it would get more attention. It would mean more than if he were to go to Detroit, and also that the Lakers would have more opportunities for him. That ended up being a very, very wise one, despite having to sacrifice hearing his name called on draft night, which is a dream that a lot of these guys have had for years and years and years. So getting to the right spot can be more important than hearing your name called or getting drafted at a certain number. And that's important. I mean, now look, you've got Austin Reaves, who's making more money than the number one pick from his draft class. So that certainly is impressive in and of itself. But also it's a testament to just Austin's perseverance and his ability to battle not just onto the roster initially, but then into a rotation spot and now up to a starting spot, now to the point where he's on Team USA and he's being recognized as one of the best young players in the NBA. So his rise has been very fast, but his ability to fight through and go from, again, being undrafted to where he's at today is certainly remarkable.
You and I have talked about it over the years that when guys are bought out, they tend to look at the Lakers and think, okay, I'm going to be on national TV a lot. If I play well, there's a lot of exposure. So we've seen it from that front where free agents on a one-year deal or bought out guys will, try to go to LA because they know that playing well will get on everyone's radar. But interesting for him to do that, from a draft perspective and basically bet on himself as an undrafted guy. So it's cool to see his, his situation kind of pay off and his gamble pay off. It's been fun to watch. I'm curious, obviously there's so much talk about the new duos around the NBA, Giannis and Dame. Obviously last year we saw a little bit of Book and KD, but relatively new. There's a lot of talk about those duos that come together, but LeBron and AD have been together several years now, so it's not like the sexy new duo, but still so dominant when healthy. Where would you rank LeBron and AD as a duo when they're at full strength?
When they're both healthy and they're both playing to the peak of their powers right now, while LeBron, who's going to be 39 coming up in December, they still can be at the very top of the NBA. They can be the best duo. I mean, we saw it in the playoffs. Anthony Davis was the best defensive player in the league. He has that ability. Again, there's plenty of question marks. Can he stay healthy the whole time? LeBron James, same thing. Can these guys stay healthy? That's a big, big question, but they can be among the very best. LeBron went on a stretch in December and in January before he got hurt where he looked like he was maybe the best player in the NBA. He was at least in the top 3 or 4 players in the league at that point. What you get out of LeBron now is you've got a guy that for stretches can turn it on and he can become the LeBron of old, the 33 or 34-year-old version of LeBron. He can become that guy again. He just can't do it all the time. He can't do it all season anymore. And so if you get him during the right point of the season, particularly if it's the playoffs, where he can really empty that gas tank, he can be great. He can be devastating for opponents. The problem with the Lakers last year, he had to hit that turbo button way too early in the season. So the hope is that this year he'll have to delay it. But I do believe they can be the best duo in the NBA if they're both at the peak of their powers at the same time, which we didn't see last year.
It's so impressive what LeBron is doing at his age. Obviously, it gets talked about a lot, but he flirted with retirement a little bit toward the end of last season. I'm not sure, how serious that was because, a few months earlier, he had made comments that he wants to keep going for a couple more years. We know the rumors that he wanted to play with his son. So, I'm not sure how serious that flirtation was, but he did kind of float that out there a little bit about retiring. How much longer do you think LeBron can do this? Because it feels like we've been having this conversation for the last 5-6 years, and then he just continues to play at a high level. Obviously, to your point, he can't do it every night, but it's just incredible what he's still able to do at this age.
Yeah, it's like LeBron. You look at it physically, you look at this guy. I mean, he's like carved out of stone, right? And so when you see him out there doing the things that he's doing, you just kind of get to a point where you expect it. You're like, this guy isn't even human. He's just out here doing these things, and it's absolutely unreal. But when you take a step back and you realize how old he is, and yes, there have been players that have played to this age, but not at this level at this age. This is really unprecedented, what we're seeing. I also don't know that we've seen an athlete who from day one has had such a focus on taking care of his body like LeBron has. So I don't know how much longer he can do this. He mentioned it towards the end of last season that when he's talking about retirement and everything, he also said, but I believe the number he went to was I still feel like I'm better than 95% of the league. And he's not wrong. So as long as he's still in that upper echelon, he's going to be able to keep doing it. And he's so physically strong that he's going to be able to continue to be effective out there on the court for a long time. I think the big question with him is it's the mental piece. How long does he want to keep doing? How long does he want to keep putting his body through that? Because it seems like physically, while yes, some injuries are starting to mount, he still gets it done out there on the floor.
Yeah, I've talked to some of his former teammates like Iman Shumpert about just the work he puts in on his body. And Shumpert, tells great stories about how they're all going out to, enjoy a night at the town. And LeBron is like, no, I have my body, my treatment, scheduled. Like he will put everything after his treatment. He's basically always doing cryotherapy and just making sure his body is, taken care of before he goes and does other stuff. So, it's definitely paid off for him. I think there was a quote from Maverick Carter a couple years ago that LeBron invests like $2 million a year into his body, just, with cryotherapy and the hyperbaric chamber and like all the things that he's kind of bought and does. And it's obviously working. It's very similar to a guy like Tom Brady that was obviously, to your point, physically able to still play, but mentally, the family stuff, those things tend to catch up. And you wonder, does a guy in his 40s really want to prepare for an NBA season, or in Brady's case, an NFL season, and all the work that kind of goes into that on and off the floor? So I think you're right. That's going to be what really ends up, deciding when LeBron James retires. But it's pretty incredible. I mean, we see so many guys break down, in their early 30s. To be able to still do this and play at this high level, it's pretty remarkable. I want to ask you about Rob Pelinka, because I know Laker fans have had, an up and down relationship with him over the years. Some of them are huge fans of what he's been able to do. At times, they've also been very frustrated with certain moves. After last season, midseason shakeup, that really worked out so well. And then with the moves that were made this offseason, where do you think Laker fans were at with Rob Pelinka? And what are your thoughts on kind of the job he's done, recently?
Everybody's feeling really good with Rob Pelinka right now. Obviously, there was a rough time there. A lot has changed in a year. But they went through that really dark period, right? The Russell Westbrook trade signaled the start of a very difficult stretch for the Lakers. And, they went through a year and a half where it just felt like the team was stuck and there was just not much they could. They had this big $47 million anchor just sitting on their books. And Rob Pelinka took a lot of the blame for that. There was plenty of blame to go around, but there were a lot of questions about, is this front office really prepared to lead this team, given the decision making that we've seen at this point? This is a major, one of the worst mistakes we've seen made in NBA history. But then prior to that, I thought he made some really good moves. They didn't get Kawhi in 2020. He had an excellent plan B lined up and executed it very quickly, and it ultimately helped them win an NBA championship that year. I thought they made some nice moves coming out of that in 2021, getting guys like Marc Gasol, getting Montrezl Harrell, Dennis Schroeder. Ultimately, that team fell short due to injuries hitting them in the postseason. Then you make the Westbrook trade. It was probably an overcorrection at that point, but at least they learned from it. You can see by the build of this current Lakers team, they recognized their error and they reversed course. And given what they've been able to accomplish since the trade deadline this past year, with everything on the line, they came up big. They came up big. And so now you've got Lakers fans that have a lot more faith in the front office and the moves that they're making moving forward. Again, this is a complete 180 from what we saw a year ago. We were talking a year ago about whether or not Rob Pelinka would last another season with the Lakers. And now here, fans are singing his praises.
And then what are your thoughts on kind of how some of the new guys fit? Guys like Gabe Vincent, Taurean Prince, Cam Reddish. We saw the Christian Wood signing. What are your thoughts on kind of those moves and how those guys fit with this roster?
Yeah, I like the moves that they've put together here. I like the value of a lot of the players that they got. Obviously, the Austin Reaves contract, there's some extenuating circumstances there, right? Where his deal is limited by the NBA in terms of how much the Lakers could actually give him. But he was one of the better signings of the offseason. Then you look at the new guys that they brought in, it all fits a bigger theme. And a lot of that theme is making sure that LeBron has all the support that he needs. So I've been asking for this for years, for wing depth on this Lakers team, which is much easier said than done. Wings are not easy to come by in today's NBA. But now you've got Rui Hachimura, you've got Jared Vanderbilt. I thought they had a great deal for Taurean Prince at $4.5 million. I thought he was on a great contract with the Wolves, and they let him go at over $7 million and change. There were some cap reasons there, but still, they've got Taurean Prince on a great contract. You bring in even Cam Reddish. Now they've got a team that is built around wing depth and guard depth. And I think you can really see the blueprint. They want this team that has positional size, that has a lot of switchability on the defensive end of the floor, and has enough firepower so that if LeBron needs to take a night off or whatever, things don't just fall to pieces. That's the idea with this squad. I think they've done a really nice job executing it. And while I looked at the team just a year ago with Russell Westbrook and LeBron and Anthony Davis, and then just an island of misfit toys, all these spare parts that just didn't really fit, this team, you can look at it on paper, the pieces fit, you can see there's a plan, they executed that plan, and they got it done.
There's a lot of talk about Denver, obviously, bringing back most of their core. Phoenix has just tons of star power, some questions about their depth. But when you look at the Western Conference, which teams are you most concerned about for the Lakers, as far as their top competition for the Western Conference crown?
Well, the thing about the West is it's insanely deep. Like this conference, you're going to have a really good team, at least one, not even make the play-in the West. That's how deep the Western Conference is. And anybody can beat anybody on any given night. So, of course, Denver right now is sitting at the top, and rightfully so. But Sacramento, this is a team that's on the rise. They can be really good. They can beat anybody on any given night. The Clippers, and they're committing towards Paul George and Kawhi Leonard playing more in the regular season. Now, I know they've got plenty of injury concerns, but they can be really good any night. I think Oklahoma City has been getting a lot of buzz lately. They've been a favorite of mine. They're definitely at the top of my league pass list in terms of non-Lakers teams to keep an eye on. I think they're going to be very, very dangerous this year. You've also got teams like, of course, the Grizzlies, the Mavericks. I mean, you've got Luka and Kyrie now with some experience playing together. I think people are sleeping on the Minnesota Timberwolves. So, Alex, I can make an argument for 10, 11, maybe 12 teams in the Western Conference to finish in the top 4. And that just goes to show this is what the NBA has been wanting. They've been wanting parity. They've got it in the West. And I think we're in for a really exciting playoff race.
I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Prize Picks. If you have not tried Prize Picks, you absolutely should. Here's how it works. It's a daily fantasy sports company where you pick 2 to 6 players and pick whether they'll score more or less points than their Prize Pick projection. If you're right, you win big. You can win 25 times your money on any entry. At Prize Picks, you aren't competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections. Prize Picks offers projections on every sport: NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, overseas basketball, cricket, and more. You can mix and match players from different sports. You could have LeBron James and Patrick Mahomes in the same entry. If you download Prize Picks today and use the promo code RUNNING when you sign up, they'll double your deposit up to $100. That's the promo code RUNNING, and they'll double your deposit up to $100. It takes 30 seconds or less to build a lineup. To show you how easy it is, I'll build a lineup right now. All right, so you just go into Prize Picks here. I'm going to pick Brandon Ayuk to finish with more than 47.5 receiving yards. And then I'm also going to pick Adam Thielen to finish with more than 57.5 receiving yards. When Dave Kluge was on the show earlier this week, he talked about how Thielen was a great option because it's going to be a shootout against Miami, and he's done this every single game this season. So we're going to have a $20 entry here, place entry, and boom, you are good to go. So thank you to Prize Picks. We appreciate them sponsoring this episode. use that promo code RUNNING, and they'll double your deposit up to $100.